Hello, hello, and welcome to episode 33 of the Steam Deck podcast, Flip Screen Games podcast, all about Valve's hot new handheld. I'm your host, Stephen Radford, joined as always by my very good friend and co-host, Mr. Max Wright.
Ahoy, ahoy, everybody.
How you doing, Max?
I'm very good, thank you very much. I think both of us have got voice issues this week, so this could be a painful listen for some people, but...
You know, see, if you're a new listener, they would have never had any idea. You should never talk about it. I
That's a
just
good
sound
point.
like I've got a deeper voice than usual. I was too busy screaming at a concert last night, the Midnight. If anyone listens to the Midnight, let me know, because they're my favourite band, and no one seems to know who they are, apart from
no idea.
Apart from Sierra in the Discord. But anyway, this week we're going to talk about a few things. I think both of us have a little bit of a rant about The Last of Us Part 1 and how it performs, not only on Steam Deck, but also on PC. Seems to be a pretty bad PC port. I'm interested to hear from you, Max, how it's been playing on your big rig as well as the deck. But also some exciting news. Dolphin's coming to Steam, and we've got a couple of questions down in the question block. So let's get right to it. The Last of Us Part 1 finally came to PC. It had a small delay from the kind of beginning of the HBO series to now. Which people thought, great, you know, it's going to be polished up, same usual Naughty Dog treatment, get it working and polished as much as they can. And it's not been a great experience for me, at least, and I think that seems to be the consensus. The reviews over on Steam are still mostly negative. We've had only one small 36 megabyte patch, which finally got some patch notes a day after. Seems they've just added in some additional telemetry so that they can log any additional crashes that are happening. Like, you're first greeted when you open it with just compiling shaders, and I'm fine to compile shaders, but when it takes an hour and a half on a Steam Deck, it's pretty egregious.
It just sits there. We recorded an entire episode of Nintendo Noise, and I had it going in the background. I went back to it, and it finally sort of like kicked in at the end of it. But yeah, wasn't even worth me actually loading the game in the end, because that these issues seem to be pretty prevalent on great PCs, let alone on Steam Deck. So not that the Steam Deck's not a great PC, but you know what I'm trying to say. Yeah,
it's a lower powered handheld, right? But when you're even playing on something with like you could be playing this on a machine with an RTX 3080 and it won't matter, because there seems to be a pretty bad memory leak in the game, whereby it chews through essentially all of your system memory, and then when it's ran out, it'll just crash the game. I've actually not had a single crash on the Steam Deck, and I think that's because I changed the UMA frame buffer in the BIOS, which I know a few people in the community did after we spoke about it on last week's episode. We did have a bit of a PSA from someone in the Discord, I forgot your name unfortunately, that it doesn't work with I think it's the Master Chief Collection, the Halo Master Chief Collection, or it might be Halo Infinite. And so your mileage may vary. You may have to jump back in and swap it out. But for The Last of Us, at least, it made it playable. I was able to get into the game once the shaders compiled after an hour and a half. I was finally able to get into the game. And the cutscenes initially, it was very positive. It looked great. It was running well. It came with a pretty sensible default, I would say, in terms of the graphics. So it wasn't all set to low. Naughty Dog had clearly done some kind of customization there, where it knew it was a Steam Deck and it set some things to medium, some things to low, automatically put FSR2 on quality mode, and it looked pretty good. But the performance was terrible. It was like chugging at like under 30 frames per second, and it was not a great experience once you start getting into the gameplay. I don't know how you've experienced it, Max.
Pretty much exactly the same as you. I turned off FSR 2.0, same as which I think you suggested to do. Just sort of like actually have it set at more of a low setting, and sort of, excuse me. But even then, like, I couldn't get like a decent playable performance out of it. And when you think about games like Spider-Man and Days Gone that you've played, and God of War and Horizon, things that sort of have not been comparable on the Steam Deck to the PS5, which makes sense because the Steam Deck's a much lower powered, smaller device. I think that this is just like so much worse than that, and for anyone experiencing the game for the first time, this would not be a great way to do it. PlayStation or PlayStation games are very, they're built for the PlayStation. They are supposed to be like, rock solid quality, great performance, things that you get in like God of War, which is locked at 60 FPS, whether you're playing on PS4 or PS5, and it looks incredible wherever you play it. It's a shame to have that, probably their biggest game, and the one that seems to be the one that people are clamoring for most on the PC and Steam Deck. It's a shame that that's the one that's not really, it's not really performing that well.
Their crowning jewel, right? We've just had a big, prestigious HBO series about it. They've clearly wanted to capitalize on that by releasing it on PC. But I think it's truly terrible that they've released a game in this state. The fault has to lie at PlayStation, whether that's Naughty Dog or whether it's the PlayStation executives that wanted to push this game out. There's no way these issues weren't identified before it got released. Yeah. It doesn't even run well on a big PC, let alone a Steam Deck. And that's a real shame, because it is a game that I know a lot of people were excited about. It has been stuck on PlayStation as an exclusive until now. And, that's fine. Exclusives are a way that Sony that was their strategy, right? It was, we make exclusives, people buy our consoles, and they were in the market selling boxes. That's clearly shifted in the last few years, and I feel like this is the worst PC port from them we've seen. All of their PC ports have had issues at launch. The Uncharted collection was not great. It had stuttering issues.
I forgot that even came over, to be honest. Yeah, I've not seen anybody talk about that since it came out. It had
stuttering issues. It had issues where if you used a mouse, it had jerky controls. It wasn't a smooth movement, unlike on a controller. But those issues got ironed out. But with The Last of Us, it seems like there are deeper issues than that.
It seems like instead of it being just like they moved it over and there are some teething problems, this seems like the port has not been done very well. And I know that it was done by, is it Iron Galaxy who did it?
It seems like it's actually not Iron Galaxy. I think Iron Galaxy assisted and worked on it, and I think their name's on it because they probably ported over the Naughty Dog engine initially for the Uncharted collection. But it seems like the majority of the work was done by Naughty Dog in-house based on the blog post that they wrote, and that they were really excited to get back to being a PC developer because that was their heritage and their prestige. It's like a prestigious platform to be a part of, and that their games wouldn't be exclusive to PlayStation going forwards. But it just seems like the port's not been done well. Initially, at first glance, I went into it, and I was like, wow, this is shaping up to be a really great port. We had all of the settings when you launch it. Every kind of graphical toggle you could think of is there. You've got DLSS 3, you've got FSR2, it's got VRR support. Everything you could think of. It's got 21x9 support. Anything you could think of as a PC gamer, it's there. It just doesn't shape up once you actually get into the game, which is a real shame, because I was really excited about it and I wasn't expecting the world from it. I would be happy to play this game on low if low actually worked. There are other issues aside from the crashes and the memory leak, which have plagued people. If you play this on a base Steam Deck without doing any of the UMA mods, without doing without installing Cryobytes, Cryo Utilities 2.0, you're gonna have crashes. And I had crashes in other games similar to that. Diablo 4, I had crashes once it ran out of video RAM, but I can accept that, right? It's a lower powered device, and I do think that a studio should really be targeting it. It's clearly got a huge market share. It's clearly one PC configuration that a lot of people are using. But I've had issues like textures not even loading in, and it's not just on Steam Deck. I've seen people complaining about this on PC. Textures on the walls and the floor, they're meant to get clearer as you get closer, as the level of detail gets greater as you get close to them. But there's a section where Tess is helping Joel over a wall, and there's a sign in front of it, and you're meant to be able to read the sign. It's a sign about Fedra and it being closed down, and it adds a bit of context to what's going on in the kind of QZ. And you just can't read it. It's just a blurry soup. Yeah. And I've had that throughout, and I've got to a point where I'm just gonna wait, I think, until this game's in a far better state. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I was going to sort of give it a good fair shake because I had not really played this much. I sort of started it on when the 5 first came out. It was my first PlayStation, so I was like, all right, I'll start it. But it just didn't gel with me. And then when they were doing part 1, I thought, all right, I'll try this. And then actually it's coming to PC, and I thought, cool, I'll play it there. That's where I prefer to play things. But yeah, now I'm just like, I've got other things to play. You know, Dredge has just come out. I was playing Inscription. Plenty of games out there that are fighting for my time.
Resident Evil 4 just came out, and I imagine a bunch of people is just like, I'll go play that zombie game, which plays at a locked 40 FPS now on Steam Deck, and looks, I think, comparable. It looks very, very good, and I think it's probably graphically on the same level, at least for my eyes, as The Last of Us Part 1.
Yeah, I think maybe not if you compare the PlayStation. Well, actually, it very possibly is actually if you compare it to like the PlayStation version, because it's a very good-looking game, Resident Evil 4. But yeah, I think that, you know, that's probably the one that I'm gonna look at next after I finish Dredge, or before I even think about playing The Last of Us. Is probably, all right, let's do Resident Evil instead. And it's just a big old shame, if you ask me.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at. I kind of regret not buying this on PS5 at this point, because I really wanted to play the game again, but I wanted to play it handheld, because I've played The Last of Us, the original Last of Us on PS3 and the remaster on PS4, and I've played the remaster at least 3 times. So I've played this game a lot. I know this game. I've just watched the TV series, so I wasn't necessarily bothered about playing it on a TV and seeing like the cinematics in full 4K. But I wanted to experience the game, and I wanted to play it handheld. I just kind of wish I'd have bought it on PS5 and then used Chiaki. And if you're not familiar with Chiaki, there's a tutorial about it over on our YouTube channel. And just streamed it remote play from my PS5 to my Steam Deck, because I feel like that would have been a much better experience than this.
That would be a better. You get better performance, wouldn't you? You know, you'd be having the PS5 experience, which is where the game was originally made for, and that I guess makes sense. But you think that a lot of these things should be scalable.
Though. I genuinely don't. Like, if you're going to sell a PC port and put the work in to port it over, look at what Nixies is able to achieve with the Spider-Man ports. Like, it's a truly phenomenal job. And Horizon not Forbidden West, Horizon Zero Dawn, that looks great.
Zero Dawn
came over with like extra options. God of War came over and supported like 4K ultra wide DLSS 3.
Yeah,
supported all of that stuff.
They should be used to it by now. Days Gone, you know, they should be used to being able to put these games out. And I wonder if it's just the company they chose to sort of help them out with it, or who knows what it could be. But it is
possibly. I mean, Iron Galaxy, as I said, helped out with the Uncharted port. Wasn't particularly well received and very performant at launch, but it's got better with patches. And I just want to highlight the fact that this game is currently being updated. If you have a look over on Steam DB, you can see that they are working on the game. They put out the 1.01.6 patch 2 days ago, but you can see, looking at the private branches that they've got on the Steam repo, that the Dev Daily branch was updated 6 hours ago. So I would expect a bunch of updates to come in probably next week, or maybe we'll get one before the weekend. We're recording this on Friday, so maybe we'll get one today. Who knows? But I think for now, with the current situation, I'm just going to wait, and I'll probably restart the game. I've only just got to the bit with Joel and Tess, and I went and got the guns back, kind of thing. So I'm not particularly far into the game. But as you say, it's just a real shame, and obviously I can imagine, unless you're not really aligned with kind of the gaming news and stuff, you won't have been able to miss that people have been complaining about this game. So kind of take this as a PSA if you've not heard, but don't go buy The Last of Us yet until some patches have been issued.
Wait off and play something else that you've not played before. You know, if you've waited long enough to play The Last of Us, maybe play something like Inscription, or try something new out like Dredge. You know, these games that have just come out or have been out for a while, that run perfectly on Steam Deck and are well worth your time.
Or Vampire Survivors. I mean, that just won a BAFTA last night for best game.
Oh, did it?
Yeah. You
love to see it, don't you? You love to see it.
Or maybe I should download Elden Ring and finally finish that.
Yes. Anyway, well, you're gonna have to start it first, aren't you?
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, just a bit of housekeeping before we get into some more news. I want to thank our Patreon producers for the month of March. No, Is it going to be March? Yes, it is. It's coming out today, so March. They are, of course, Arnold J. Rimmer, Christopher Valens, Earth Visitor, Gabriel Hasmite, aka Sobi, Snack You Go, Ty the Dude, and Wakahula. Thank you so much for your support over on patreon.com/FlipScreenGames. And of course, that's where you can go to support us. Head over there. You can support us at any level. We really appreciate your support. It helps keeps the mics rolling. But if you can't support us there, no worries. Just feel free to head over to flipscreen.games, and you can find us everywhere on the web, including on Discord. It's the best place to come and interact with us and keep the conversation rolling after we finish. Anyway, next piece of news: Dolphin, the GameCube emulator and Wii, I guess, Wii emulator, coming to Steam, which was a real surprise. And it looks like Oatmeal Dome, you know, Oatmeal Dome, the data miner and modder for over on the Switch scene.
Right, yeah.
It was basically their pet project. So it's nice to see that it's coming to Steam. And I think, you know, some people are kind of, well, why do I need that? I can just go over to the desktop mode. I can download it from the Discover store on Steam Deck, or I can use EmuDeck.
EmuDeck, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this makes it so you get cloud saves. And I think that's the biggest thing, right? You can play the game on your Steam Deck. You can close it. The cloud saves will sync up to the Valve servers. And then you can go over to your PC. And if you downloaded Dolphin through Steam on your PC, you can continue playing. And I think it's such a cool move from them, and I really hope it's something we see from other emulators moving forward.
Yeah, you've nailed it there. That is the big selling point. I was probably like many people when it was first announced. I was like, well, like, what's the point? It doesn't matter. I've already got it, and you know, if I want to, use these emulators, I've already got them installed. But as soon as I saw cloud savers, I was like, right, I get it now. You can now use if you're not a dock person, or you'd rather sort of like use the Steam Deck like I do sometimes, where you play on the PC and you move over and you pick up the Steam Deck. You now have the option of doing that. I know EmuDeck does sort of support cloud saves. They've added support for
their own cloud saves, and you obviously only get that if you use EmuDeck on another device. And I think currently it doesn't necessarily support other devices.
I don't even think it pulls it down. I think you have to manually go and collect it. It just pops it on there for you. So it's not a perfect solution, and I think this is a great solution. You know, this is something that would possibly get me to move over and maybe start using Dolphin in Steam as opposed to EmuDeck, and also like with where Steam's going to start automatically detecting how many cores to use. It sort of gets rid of the use for power tools as well, and I think it's a good step in the direction of you pick up your Steam Deck. You don't have to, because for a lot of people, I think the Steam Deck is quite a power user device. It's quite a, what's the word I'm looking for? I think
it's like an enthusiast device, like
enthusiast device. Yeah, we had this exact discussion. Yeah, so that could put some people off. Oh, I've got to tinker around with it to get the best out of it. If these things are just on Steam, if you can just go on Steam, excuse me, if you can just go on Steam. Oh God, sorry.
I think for me, you're right. It's like if you can just go on Steam and download it, it takes out that element. I can imagine, because I know my dad's probably one of them, where he's never even gone into desktop mode and doesn't want to tinker with that side of things and wants to use it as a console. One thing I hope this means is that we get potentially a controller layout for Dolphin, because at the moment everything's mouse and keyboard, and to configure everything it's got to be done with the mouse and keyboard. I hope this means they put some kind of interface over it, similar to how RetroArch works, where potentially you can have like your artwork there and you can just click into the game you want to play, and I can imagine the configuration is going to be done out of the box, right? It's probably going to support Steam input, so you can have the multiple controller support there. You don't have to worry about setting up gyro and doing any of that stuff. It should hopefully just work.
Yeah, the way that I currently do it is once I've used Steam ROM Manager to put the game on the Steam Deck homepage, I will just load it and then configure the controls myself from in there. I never enter the menus of any of the emulators, because it is a bit of a nightmare unless you have the mouse, the keyboard, the dot, which I now have, and I am finding it easier now to go, okay, cool, let's mod this game, let's let's get the best performance out of the 3DS because I can just type in the codes and stuff like that now. It's easier. But for a lot of users, that's not the case. So if you could just boot straight in and it's all set up for you, and then, but even if it is all set up for you, you do need to make tweaks. It's just a simple, you press the start button, you use the controller or the buttons to actually navigate through the menus. To make it a native in that way is going to be big for everyone.
Yeah, I do wonder how it's going to work with setting up like things like BIOSes and like adding your ROMs in general, because EmuDeck's new update is making that even easier. You can now just load the you can load them onto a USB stick, and you can add the ROMs from another machine and then just pop them in, and EmuDeck will populate it and do all the Steam ROM Manager stuff. And obviously you're not going to get the core Steam ROM Manager stuff that you get where you can have like the artwork directly in your library, but some people don't want that. I'm one of them. I use the emulation station, so I kind of keep all of the ROMs out of the way, and I only have some games that I'm playing frequently at the moment. Is Simpsons Hit and Run and Crazy Taxi that I've got in my library. Yeah, real classics. I think for me, I'm probably still going to continue to use EmuDeck because it sets up every emulator and does it all in one hit, and I can have basically everything managed by Steam ROM Manager and Emulation Station. But as you say, I think for a lot of people, this is going to be the easy solution. I go on Steam and I download it.
And like I said, you might be someone who uses their emulator on their PC a lot, and this means that you can just swap between them quite easily, and there's no need for you to, you can just pick up where you left off, and that's a huge bonus. I think that for me personally it wouldn't work, but there are going to be loads of people that do move over so they can just, like the Switch, swap and change, pick it up and play wherever. I think I think what you said earlier about could this be where emulators start going, that would be very interesting if maybe if all of EmuDeck could just move straight into Steam. If
that'd be really cool, wouldn't it? Like you just click download, yeah.
If that then supports Steam Cloud saves, and then you just have, it's you can just emulate everything, and it'd be so easy, and you can tweak everything, and you just get the most out of the Steam Deck without having to pull your hair out for a little while to actually get it working.
Yeah, because sometimes setting up the BIOSes and getting everything in the right place and configuring the folders and all of that stuff is a bit of a palaver.
Yeah.
And I can imagine having it natively on Steam is going to be a lot easier. I know, Max, you said you've now got the dock, and I know you got that last week, right? Have you had a chance to play with it much? How are you getting on with it?
I've used it quite a lot, actually. I took it to work and I sort of docked it. So I got the package when I was at work, so I sort of had my Steam Deck with me, put it in, tested it out, mouse and keyboard in, and I was essentially just using the screen that I usually use for working. I had my laptop next to me. I had the Steam Deck on it, and I was sort of testing some games out, and I was I've sort of docked before using a little dongle before on my TV here, but running it at on a 4K TV, it had some issues unless I manually set the resolution, and I think some of the games, maybe when you take what is a 720p image and you expand it that much, don't look great. But on a sort of smaller 1080p screen, it was great. I played Inscription on there. I played a little bit of GTA just to sort of try it out. Doom Eternal still had some issues. It's still, when I booted it up, booted in like 460p, and it was too small to read anything, and I had to navigate through the menus to try and work it out. It does that whenever I sort of change the resolution of what it's outputting at. It seems to do that. But I also tried out desktop mode, and it was like having a full desktop experience. I was able to sort of flick through the menus, flick through the. Before, I've sort of found it a bit of a difficult thing. I've either had to have the dongle attached to the Steam Deck and the Steam Deck down like in my lap, and then the mouse over like on the bed or on a desk somewhere, and it just doesn't feel right. This felt right, and I loaded up Marvel Snap, and it played really well. I could definitely see myself using it more. I don't think for me right now it's going to have much home use. I don't think I'm going to sort of take this home, play a lot of games on here because I have the PC, but I think to take it elsewhere and play maybe on if I'm away like in an Airbnb, or if, like I say, if I'm at work, places where I might want to not even just use it as a game system, but also use it as a small computer, streaming and things like that, I think is going to be very, very good.
Yeah, I really like mine. I've got a third-party dock as well, which was sent to us. And in terms of comparison,
Is that one of the who sent us those?
Do you know what? I can't remember the name of it, but it's like a generic dock from Amazon. I'll post a link in the description.
Okay.
And this thing,
not one of the JSAL.
No, it's not a
JSOC
dock. It was like Fun something. It's like a generic dock, but it actually works really, really well. It's made of metal rather than plastic.
Okay.
But it doesn't come with the charger, so you kind of got to make the decision as to whether you want the charger, whether that's important to you, or whether you just go for a cheaper dock. But you do get the USB-C for the power, HDMI, 3 USB ports, and Ethernet on the side. So it works.
Ethernet's been very handy.
Yeah, it works.
Ethernet's been great. Now it's downloading really quickly.
Yeah, it's really nice to have it because obviously the Steam Deck doesn't have Wi-Fi 6, so not the fastest connection.
Yeah, and it just anytime I try and download anything on the Steam Deck, it can just freeze my entire network. So it's really good to be able to just plug it in and run it through that where I don't care if things get frozen on there because it's just purely for my computer and the network. So
yeah, I'm glad you're enjoying it. There's a full review over on our YouTube channel, and I highlight some of the issues that I had with it. I think for me, the biggest issue I had was it missing some of the functionality that I was hoping for. Like it still doesn't have VRR support, and I really want that. But it does have a lot of use cases, right? I used the dock when I managed to brick my Steam Deck and I needed to recover it. And I could just dock it in there, hook it up to a screen, put in the recovery drive, and then I could get it working fine. But it's also great if you want to stream. You can like install OBS on this. You could stream some games. You can hook up a webcam. I hooked up my camera that I use for the podcast on there. You can do programming on it. It is just a PC. You get a whole full desktop environment, which is really, really cool. And so I think if you're kind of on the fence with it, maybe the price is something that is kind of putting you off. Maybe just look at a cheaper dock and use the existing charger that you've got. You can find them on Amazon for about 30-40 quid. And I think it's well worth it because even if you only play a few games on TV, like I've got a bunch of the Jackbox games on Steam. And so being able to plug the Steam Deck into the TV when we have some friends over, we can just play some Jackbox, which is really, really nice. And we don't have to worry about buying it on another system or whatever because I've already got it on Steam.
I always say that my favourite thing about PC gaming is choice. You know, you have a choice of where you buy your games, you have a choice of how you play them, you have a choice of what input device you use, you have a choice of whether you want graphics or performance, blah, blah, blah. You have all this choice. And the dock is just like another level of choice. You know, it's like, okay, where do I want to, you know, can I play it elsewhere? It takes the PC on the go experience and makes it possible to have a PC experience on the go with a mouse and keyboard, if that makes sense. I know you could do it with a laptop before, but this is just an easier to carry around solution. You pop it down, and you don't even need a screen to output it to. If you want to use a mouse and keyboard and have the dock just sitting in the dock, works like that as well. Great. So
yeah. And one thing I will say is the Steam Deck dock is quite it's got quite a thin or narrow area where the Steam Deck docks in, so it won't work with like the Project Kill switch that the brand sells, but they do sell like an adapter, or you can just buy a third-party dock which has got a little bit more room in there, and even with the connector on top, the official Steam Deck one is very quite sculpted to the device, and so it won't necessarily fit in if you've got a skin or a third-party case on. So that's just something to be aware of as well. But I think the dock for me is kind of an essential now, having had it for like 6 months. I just like having somewhere to put my Steam Deck once I'm done with it and charge it. And even having that as like a charging station is really nice for me.
I had this thought yesterday when I was playing Dredge and I was like, right, I should probably go to bed. All of a sudden it's 10:30. And I was like, okay, I'll charge my Steam Deck for tomorrow. And I plugged in the charger. And then I was like, right, where do I put this? Now I've got, because the way I use my Steam Deck, or the way I charge my Steam Deck is I plug it in, turn the Steam Deck in the case 90 degrees, and then close the case over it so it's sort of like half open. It's never fully protected. I worry about getting warm, and I was like, really wish I had the dock here, not left at work. In fact, I actually brought it home. I'm going to use it today to just sort of set it down there where my PlayStation used to be, and just have it sort of pride and place on that little table. So yeah, just having somewhere to charge it that's not just, I guess it's in the case like an open face sandwich or a clam.
I know, it's really weird. Mine's next to my bed like that right now. I should probably take this other dock in there and have it set up in my bedroom, because the other one's connected to my TV in the living room.
Perfect. Options. We love it.
Yeah.
Choice.
Well, we've got a couple of questions from the question block that I just want to use to close out the show, and then I kind of want to pick your brains on Dredge, because I want to know if I should pick it up. First question we had was from Joran. They emailed in and said, "Hi, Steve and Max. I'm a new listener and a new Steam Deck user. I found your podcast while doing research on the deck, and I'm enjoying your episodes. I wanted to share my story of buying the Steam Deck and ask you a question that I think might be interesting for your show. It's about the docking experience," which is a good timing, "and the direction of SteamOS. My girlfriend and I moved in together recently, and I found myself with very little time to play video games on our PS4. I would take up the entire living room, and it would take too long to start a game. I got very jealous of my girlfriend, who had a Nintendo Switch and could play games on the couch or on the go. That's when I got interested in the Steam Deck. We were lucky enough to order 2 Steam Decks and a docking station last week when Valve had them on sale." Wow. "We've had them for a few days now, and we love them. They run great, they're comfy, and the battery life is fine." She's been playing Bears and Breakfast and other indie games. Bears and Breakfast, by the way, is an underrated game. It didn't make my list of favorite games from 2022, or almost did, but it's a great management sim. And I'm finally playing Bioshock and Obra Dinn and Bioshock, also phenomenal games. We also plan to use them as media center PC with the dock. However, we noticed that the docking experience is not very smooth yet. Sometimes the screen resolution is not optimal, sometimes the output's not detected and gives a black screen, and streaming movies on a 4K TV has micro stutters. My question for the show is what Valve is planning to do with SteamOS in the future. Will SteamOS 3.5 and the SMT bug almost behind us? What will Valve focus on next? Will it make the docking experience better? Will it make SteamOS generally available? Add HDR support? I would appreciate if you could share your thoughts on this topic. Thank you for your awesome podcast and keep up the good work. Kind regards, Joran."
Thank you for your great email, Joran. I really enjoyed reading this, and thank you for listening, and good job on finding us.
And congrats on the 2 Steam Decks. That's real massive. Yeah, especially grabbing those while they were on sale. That's really good.
Yeah. Congratulations on moving in together as well. That's nice. Yeah, I think with the as we were just talking about docks, I'll sort of talk about the docking experience. I agree that it's not very smooth, and I think for anything other than gaming, I was struggling with it. I was trying to use it to output Disney Plus a while back, and ended up having just some issues where I kept disconnecting the wrong screen, or I couldn't use it at all. I had to sort of like unplug it and reboot. Are you
using that in desktop mode?
In desktop mode, yeah. I just couldn't really get it to work very well.
So there is a way.
I think
there is a way for that in gaming mode, right? So you could just install a browser, and use gaming mode.
Isn't there a plugin for a Decky plugin for Chrome?
I believe there's a plugin that will add like a bunch of them as like thumbnails in your library, so you can have like all of the media services that you use. I think you can also just install Plex or maybe Kodi from Steam itself. I think that's on there. So there are.
So I have Plex and I use Plex, but I think specifically you wanted to what's that on Disney Plus at the time? Excuse me. Yeah, I think Plex is a great option. However, you have to have something to run it off. I don't think the Steam Deck could encode very well on, especially if you're running a like 4K content on the Steam Deck. I think that you're going to run into big issues there. So Plex is probably an option if you have another PC to run it off. But I think the fact that you have the PS4, I think right now, until they add some updates to the docked experience, I would say just use the PS4 as a media center. I don't know about you, Steve, if you agree with that or not, but I think that the Steam Deck docked experience isn't there yet.
I use the built-in apps on my TV, so I'm not the right person to answer this. I
also do.
It comes to this. I used to use like an Apple TV, and I've used a Chromecast, and I've used a Amazon Fire Stick and a Roku stick. I even wrote some like posts about this over on my blog, but I'm not necessarily looking to use it as a media center. However, I do think that the docked experience is probably next on the list. I actually think the next 3.5 is going to wrap up And I think that's going to be the release that they use to kind of send it out to general release, and so you can install it on different devices and different PCs, and we can have the dual boot with Windows. I think that's probably where they're trying to get to. And then after that, I think HDR and the docking experience kind of go hand in hand, because the built-in screen on the Steam Deck will never support HDR, but outputting to a TV with HDMI 2.1, which the dock has, and the Steam Deck is capable of outputting, we should be able to support VRR or FreeSync, and we should be able to support HDR. And we've seen from Plagman over on Twitter advertising that HDR's on the works for SteamOS, and he showed a screenshot of, I think it was Doom Eternal, playing with HDR. They've just added ray tracing for that title in particular as well, so it seems like that's kind of their experimentation ground. So I could see HDR coming. But I think the docked experience needs some work. I would say gaming mode is really where they need to spend the time to get it working. In desktop mode, it kind of just works like plugging in a second monitor to any PC, where you can extend the screens or you can mirror the screens. You've got like a bunch of options. But in gaming mode, I still have issues the same as Yorum, where I sometimes get a black screen. Like and when I restart the Steam Deck, it won't connect, and I've got to get up and I've got to unplug it and plug it back in. So like if I install an update or it crashes, I've got to constantly get up and down to unplug it and plug it back in, which is a shame. I can't run
busy work. It's just busy work, isn't it?
And I can't run it at 40 hertz, which I want to be able to run it at. I can set it to 40 hertz, and it will output at 40 hertz. But as I said in our review, I lose sound. It will not output any sound then, and it's not a great experience.
Is that still the case, even with updates?
That's still the case, even with all of the updates today.
Wow.
So it's clearly not been their focus, and I can imagine it's because the percentage of people that have bought a dock and used the Steam Deck docked is probably minuscule in comparison to the number of Steam Decks out there. But I do hope that they are able to improve that experience.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that we've said before, like when the dock came out, we said that it's been good to be a part of this early access, not early access, like an early adopter thing where things are improving and we get to benefit from those improvements. And at no point sort of do I feel like I'm going to regret being an early adopter. But I think there's just a lot of patience involved, and I think this is one of those things that's going to require some patience. The dock's great for doing certain things. The way I've been using it has been really good for me, but I don't think it would replace anything for me just now. Like I wouldn't replace the PS4 or my PS5 or my PC connected to my TV. I wouldn't replace that with a Steam Deck connected to the TV, because it's just never going to give me the same performance. I think it's got its use cases.
I do think, though, there are some use cases where it can work, right? Because I have used the Steam Deck hooked up to a second screen in my office where I am now, and I've streamed from the PS5 in the living room where I want to play, or the Xbox in the living room where I want to play, like Elden Ring, or even, say, The Last of Us Part 1, and I want to stream it rather than playing it on device. I can do that. Works great as a Steam Link device or with Moonlight, where you can stream from a higher powered PC if you want to do that, and then take it into more of like a couch mode rather than having to sit at a desk. So it depends on your configuration in your house. Like you're quite fortunate that you're able to hook up a PC to a TV, but I know a lot of people that have the PC in a different room to where their TV is. So having the option is nice.
Yeah, I think just being in one room. And I think when I move and when I have my PC in one room, my TV in another room, and I'm going to want to have my PlayStation sort of downstairs with the TV, and I think it's going to become a bit harder then, and maybe I will experiment more with using the dock. But I also think that then that's where options, like you said, of streaming games to the Steam Deck, using it as a Steam Link instead of using it as the device that's playing the game, will probably be a massive benefit to me. That's just not worth me doing right now, when my PC is attached to the exact same TV.
Yeah, Steam Link's great. One last thing I think we're probably going to see outside of SteamOS improvements, which obviously HDR and VRR and the docking experience is probably some changes to the client, the Steam client. I think now that we've got the customization menu with the custom startup movies that you can buy from the store, I think next is themes. And I think themes are probably on the way. I'm hopeful that we get official support for plugins at some point, but I'm not holding my breath. I know we had plugins on the desktop client for a while, and same with themes on the desktop client. But I hope that they do make their way to the new.
I don't remember plugins
experience. They kind of got phased out for a while. Like you could install stuff like TeamSpeak and things as like built into Steam, and then it would come up in like the Steam overlay, so you could have have plugins in that way. It was really just to add additional features. I don't know when we had Steam plugins and when they got phased out. Let me have a quick look.
I just do not remember any of that, but maybe that was a time when I wasn't gaming on my PC, and therefore I just don't remember it at all.
Yeah, I can't. I know there was Crankshaft, which is also something that you can do in order to install plugins, but that was also working on PC. So I might be mistaken, but I'm sure we had plugins at some point. We definitely had.
No, you're probably right.
We definitely had themes, and I'd like to see that come over as well, just for an added bit.
I remember themes. I definitely remember themes, and then they sort of when they did this new Steam that has the where the library sort of like is in the grids along with the images and
it's
stuff.
Like a merge
that sort of went away, right?
Yeah, it's like a merge of some of the Steam Deck UI.
Yeah.
On desktop. Yeah. All right, we've got one.
Maybe they'll treat. Maybe I think we've. Oh, sorry, go on.
No, you carry on.
I was going to say I think it's we've been saying a lot about how it seems like they're treating the Steam Deck as more of a console in some ways, and that maybe themes and things that are typically console features may be sort of like a priority in the future.
I mean, I think it makes sense. We need to have something to spend our points on. That we all got given like a million points for buying a Steam Deck, and you can't really spend them on anything because there's nothing worthwhile in there. I bought my theme for my profile, and I've not changed it once since.
What did you go for?
I can't even remember.
That's what episode you missed. You weren't off for it. But
it's some like rainbow theme with like a rainbow around my thing. I've got to show off my queer side. But I think for me that we need something more substantial to spend those points on. And I think it can also work in the same way that they did it on the desktop side, and the same with the profiles, right? You used to get them as like pre-order bonuses. If you bought like a game, you would get like a theme or some additional like trading cards and stuff. Well, let's expand that to have that be Steam Deck themes or Steam themes. Like when this becomes the UI across all platforms, because it's already the new big picture UI. They're obviously integrating sections of it into the desktop. When it becomes the one UI, which they're clearly working towards, I think we get themes then, and it would be really nice to see.
I mean, Steam theme just sounds good, doesn't it? So that's just it'd be silly not to with a name like that.
Final question for this week's show. My dad, Andy Rads, one of our Patreon producers, who is apparently Arnold J. Rimmer, said, God of War, Steam Deck or PS5? And this was a question for you, Matt.
This is a no-brainer. If you're talking price, you're talking performance, you're talking any factor you can think of, it's PS5. It's probably the same price, probably cheaper on PS5 to buy. So you just buy the PS4 version and apply the update. That's always going to be cheaper than wherever you can find a PC key, let alone just sort of waiting for a Steam sale. God of War on the PS5 can be run at 4K 60, gorgeous looking game. One of the, even where are we, 5 years down the line, still one of the best looking games I think that's ever come out. Probably only really topped by something like Ragnarok. You get to sort of like soak it in on a big TV, and it is like a game that's just packed full of detail, and it really feels cinematic. And I think that while you would get benefit from that on the PC, if you're playing on PC and you wanted to swap between the two maybe, but if you're just going purely Steam Deck, I wouldn't recommend it. I would just say pick it up on the PS5, and then when you beat the game, you then have the option of just immediately picking up Ragnarok and going through that again, which I also highly recommend. So yeah, that is a no-brainer, and I'm sure if Pete was here with us today, he sounds like he's died. If Pete wasn't busy and we couldn't record, he would be screaming the exact same thing back at me as well. So
I think it's also worth noting that God of War on PS5 is $15.99. It's very cheap. You can get the cheapest key I could find for PC was $17.50. It's also worth noting it's on PlayStation Plus. So if you subscribe to that already, or you want to subscribe for a month, you'll probably get through God of War.
Isn't that going away? Have they lost that yet? They were getting rid of the PS Plus collection.
They got rid of the PS Plus collection, but you
initially.
can play on the like middle tier now, like the one that gives you games and stuff. Like you subscribe for like $11.99 a month.
I don't care enough to do that.
I think people who play PS5 all the time though do that, and I think it makes sense to play it there. You can also stream it to your Steam Deck, as we said, like use something like Chiaki to stream it. That's a possibility.
Oh yeah, then yeah.
If you want to play in handheld,
even if you want to play it in bed,
the only thing I would say is if you want to take it on the go, then the Steam Deck is really your kind of only option. There, you can't really take your PS5 portably. And I think God of War for the most part does run pretty well on Steam Deck from what I've heard. I'm interested to try it out, but I think maybe that is one that I would want to try on PS5 with the DualSense, with the like adaptive triggers and all of that stuff, and just experience those cinematics and that story on a 4K screen. So yeah, I think for me, probably I would agree with you, and I would go down the PS5 route for that one.
Yeah.
But if you've got a big PC, though,
I thought
that's like maybe the right way.
If you've got like a if you've got a big PC and you want to use it like like a Switch, then I would recommend doing it on there, because then you can play it on the big screen. You can sort of soak it in for the way that it should be soaked in. It very much feels like a sit down in front of the TV and watch it, like because of the cinematics are quite movie like. So but yeah, if you'd rather, and also you get the option of playing it in bed, which is the second time today I've thought about your dad in bed, Steve. So I can't believe it. But yeah, I'd say PS5, because it's in every factor it's probably equally as good, if not better, than even the playing it on a PC. So there we go.
Right, Max, closing out the show. Tell me about Dredge. Sell me on Dredge. What is it?
So Dredge is it's sort of got roguelike-y elements. So I'm only like an hour or two into it, and it's excuse me, I've just got a stretch. It's so far very simple. You have a little boat, and it's quite nice, and you sail out to sea, and there's little patches where there's fish, and there's quite a simple fishing mini game, and then there's patches you can't quite fish yet because you don't have the right equipment. You go out in the day. As you move and as you fish, the time goes on. At night time, things come out, it seems, to get you. So you want to get back in at night. And then at night, you can sell your fish. You can upgrade your ship. You can buy new rods. You can sort of talk to the villagers. And so far, it seems like there's a pretty simple story. And there's a pretty simple loop of out fish back. But then you get like a new rod, and you can fish in shallow water for eels, or you can eventually get like ones where you can fish lower down. You can get rods that do multiple things, so you don't have to carry so many rods. You have to manage your inventory space. So some of the fish are flounders are a 2x2 grid of 4. A cod is a like an L shape. I think I can't remember what the first fish is. It's like mackerel or something, blue mackerel maybe, and that's just 2x1. And you have a boat-shaped inventory, so you have to move it around and fit them all in to sort of maximize how many fish you can go out and get. And so far, it seems pretty simple. It seems like you'll be able to go and visit other islands. There's ways to upgrade your ship. There's going to be you're currently sort of indebted to the mayor, very much like Animal Crossing, where he's giving you a boat and he's like, you can pay me back when I'll take a percentage of all your sales. So far, I'm sort of genuinely making some money.
Then, like a percentage of all of your sales. Tom Nook is like the worst businessman in the world. He's just like, yeah, pay me back whenever. No interest. I'm fine.
Yeah, I mean, the mayor does seem like he knows business. And yeah, so far I'm enjoying it. It seems quite relaxing so far. Just going out fishing. There's not really been any stresses for me just yet, but I get the feeling that when it gets to night time and you've got to turn your light on, and I get the feeling that there will be some sort of nasty creepies out there, and that there's going to be a big risk factor of going out into open water, because I'm very much contained within this little cove for now, and I'm very happy with that. But I think I'm going to have to go out and explore more and go to different islands, get different fish. And there's also like quests and things. Like I think he wants me to go and take something to another island. The mayor does, and there's also the fishmonger you sell the fish to. He's like, oh, I've had an order for these 2 fish. If you can get there, that'd be great. There's an old hag who sort of gave me a stern look and warned me to leave. So I think it's going to get more interesting as it goes on. I'm looking forward to playing more because it does very much seem like a fun sit-down game. I played it on PC and on Steam Deck, and so far it seems to play fine on both. It's just getting used to the mouse and keyboard controls on the PC versus the controller controls on the Steam Deck. I think I prefer the controller controls because there's not really much moving around and clicking and precision and stuff. It's still like when you're fishing, it's still you have to press F at the right time, whereas that's just an A or a B or whatever the button is for it. Might even be X, actually, whatever. But yeah, I think this is going to be a good one. I'm looking forward to playing this. I'd much rather be playing this right now than struggling with The Last of Us. For that's for sure.
Yeah, I think I'm probably going to end up picking this one up. It looks really cool. I
think it's pretty cheap, £19, £21, whatever it is.
It's not bad at all. Yeah.
No.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining me as always today, Max. It seemed like a decent episode. As always, thank you so much to our Patreon producers. And if you want to support us, head over to patreon.com/flipscreengames. You can find us everywhere we are on the web, including Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. If you're not watching this on YouTube, we do the fancy YouTube thing, because I know most of you listen on audio. And we shall catch you on the next one. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.